so I did not.
He went to what?
Carhartt,
Who did?
Chris,
When?
Sunday night.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, I thought he was banned.
What's Carhartt?
Winery.
Okay, I'd like to call to order the special meeting of the Solvang City Council, December 7th, 2020, 6:30 PM. Can I get a roll call?
Mayor Pro Tem Clark,
Here.
Councilmember Thomas,
Here.
Councilmember Johnson,
Here.
Councilmember Waite,
Here.
Mayor Toussaint.
Here. Karen, you want to lead us in the pledge?
Certainly. Wait for them to see it. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the United States of America. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the first item on the agenda tonight is public communications, written or verbal. Looks like I have a few speaker slips here. I'll start with Joanne Clark.
Good evening. I'm Joanne Clark. I'm a Solvang resident. I'm here about the governor's edict to close down the Santa Barbara County, and which will only further devastate our city and other businesses in the valley. So I'm here to ask you, as your last official act as a city council, to declare that Solvang will not close. And then to please, as a city council, write to the Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Department an official request that they will not enforce the governor's rule. There are 4 other counties that have county sheriff departments in the state that have already done this. The last 6 months have been filled with a lot of controversy for you as a council and for us as city residents. However, if you will do this thing, it will be what you will be remembered for. Everything else will disappear and dissipate. You will be respected and appreciated for doing all you could to help Solvang stay solvent. So before you close the meeting, I would ask again that you would please declare Solvang will stay open and write that request to the Santa Barbara County Sheriffs so that you can walk away knowing that you did everything you could to help Solvang stay in business. I appreciate your time and I appreciate your service. Thank you.
Okay, we have next speaker slip, Tracy Beard.
I have a few things. One is I want to bring a letter to your attention. It was brought to your attention, and this is from Matthew Hunt. We all received the email from him, and I just wanted to make sure it became public, in public record, of he has a very serious issue on the crosswalk, and you all saw the video if you were able to watch it, so I just want to present that as all this evening. Thank you.
Posado and 246.
So I'm a little confused. I have 3 speaker slips from you.
Yeah, one, yep.
So, but,
Can I go again? Sure. Okay.
yeah, just bring up all your subjects now.
Okay.
Unless there's one
There's
only,
one.
only
part
to
of-
do with item number 2 that's on the agenda.
Yes. Okay, the second one is we are going to ask you tonight to send a letter to the governor to ask him to please open Solvang. Solvang needs to be open. We have had 500,000 people come through Solvang over the summer. We have less than 300 cases. We must be doing something right in this town. And we have done mask up, as we all have. We have put it out there. We have put out Solvang 6 feet apart. We've put our signage out. Our city manager's done a very good job working with IDK to putting out signage, paying for signage. I don't understand why we're not open, and we're not saying we're open for business. And this is going to be a problem when it comes tax time. And I would like you to see a letter, as Joanne said, to every one of our supervisors, to our state government agencies, and to our governor, please. Thank you.
On that?
Yeah.
I had sent an email today to the city manager asking if we could hitch our wagon to San Luis Obispo regarding that, and that we have our capacity for ICU beds and hospital beds is well below the threshold, and the fact that we are lumped in with the south residents of this area, to me, makes absolutely no sense, and I would like to do something going forward post haste and not wait for 3 weeks. And so maybe with the next council, we can take that up. There's just no reason that we should be lumped in with Los Angeles. This town has been packed since May. We've been averaging around 14 cases, active cases. I don't think we've had any hospitalizations here in the valley. And it's something that really needs to be looked at, because people can't keep getting kicked like this. And, I mean, maybe we need to name all of our restaurants the French Laundry, and that'll be okay or something. I'm tongue-in-cheek, but gee whiz, this makes no sense at all. So what the two speakers have said, I wholeheartedly agree with, and I wish that we could do something about that going forward. I know it's not an agenda item tonight, so we'll have to take that up with the next council.
Is there any more public comment?
Can I make a comment on that as well?
Yes.
The Board of Supervisors tomorrow will be voting on an agenda item that would include San Luis Obispo, Santa Barbara, and Ventura County as being considered as an area to be considered, instead of the ones that are further down like Imperial and San Diego County. So it might be good to call your board member and let them know what you think about it.
So that's actually something I have noted on. I'm just trying to get through public comment right now, and then I'll finish. But is there anyone else that wishes to speak during public comment? Okay. So with that, what I was going to say is, as it's come to our attention that Santa Barbara, Ventura, San Luis Obispo County are considering requesting the governor to establish a Central Coast region for our 3 counties, and the Santa Barbara County Board of Supervisors will be considering those issues tomorrow. I think it would be within our parameters for the council to make or I can make the motion tonight, that we consider adding that as an emergency item to tonight's agenda, and this council could actually deliberate on that right now.
Mr. Mayor, I would note that that's an item that came up after the posting of the agenda and that requires action before you could schedule the next regular meeting. So you just need a 2/3 majority vote to add that to the agenda for this evening.
Okay. So I'll make the motion to request consent to add the emergency item to tonight's agenda, and to consider sending a simple email to the Board of Supervisors in support of which way this council wishes.
I'll second that.
So moved and seconded?
Mayor Pro Tem Clark,
Yes.
Councilmember Thompson,
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Waite,
Yes.
Mayor Toussaint.
Yes. I'll move that we take that item before tonight's normal item. Good, done?
Yeah.
Is there a second?
Yes.
Okay.
Mayor Pro Tem Clark,
Yes.
Councilmember Thompson,
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Waite,
Yes.
Mayor Toussaint.
Yes. All right, so with that, we have an emergency item on tonight's agenda, and I've heard a little bit from Robert, I've heard a little bit from Jim. Who else would like to talk on this item? We'll then take some public comment, and then we can move something. Okay. Everyone in line with what was said already?
Absolutely.
With that, we'll go to public comment on this item. Is there anyone that wishes to speak on this item?
Would anybody online or on the phone like to speak on this item? I know I had a request from Lamy Johnstone on the phone to speak on items not on the agenda, but
I don't
would you like to
see
unmute
it
yourself?
on the phone.
Go ahead.
Or is
Well,
that- Oh, there it is, okay.
hello,
We can hear you.
it's me again. I know you can hear me.
We can hear you.
Anyway, okay. I'm glad you just voted on what it is that you did. However, remember, we could stand alone as a city without any decision by the supervisors. Let me give you an example. Riverside, La Jolla, San Mateo, albeit a county, Santa Clarita are just a few of the California areas who are saying no to Newsom's draconian, really draconian orders. As a city, we too can say no, thereby allowing our restaurants and our stores to open right now. If you as a council do not allow us to get back to a degree of normalcy, Solvang will have a very, very bleak future. Let me give you an example. Let's say Rasmussen gets in an average of 20 customers. According to Newsom, that store can only accommodate 20%. That's 4 people at a time. Ridiculous. You tell that to David Rasmussen, forget it. Restaurants, we already are dining outside with the correct distancing. I think it was Tracy who mentioned, or somebody mentioned how many COVID cases we have here. How many are there? A smidgen. And I'm speaking about the entire valley, not just Solvang. I believe this is almost your last, if not the last, council meeting. Show the city you care. Tell Newsom that Solvang Council stands with its people and, more importantly, its businesses. If you do not, your legacy will have a black spot in our history. And if you do not, then don't just pick on restaurants and shops. Go the whole way. Why don't you just cancel the farmers market? Okay, finally, don't pass this on to the new council. And I think what you just did right now is saying to me and everybody else listening to this, you're not going to pass it on to the new council. You're going to decide. That's great. Discuss it now. Decide now. It's your choice, your legacy. It's our future. Thank you very much.
Is there any more public comment?
Would anybody else online like to speak on this item? Please raise your hand or unmute yourself. Seeing none.
Okay. Take it back to the council for discussion and action. Erin,
So,
would you like to start?
please. My concern with this is the legality and where does the liability fall if the city decides to not follow the state or county mandates? Does this fall on liability of the city, or would this fall on the liability of each individual business owner, restaurant? If you could please explain that, Chip.
Sure, and the question in large part goes to what you all end up doing. I would say if what you do is you urge the county to send the letter that, as I understand, is going to be talked about at the Board of Supervisors tomorrow, which is a letter to the governor urging the governor to create a new region, the Central Coast region, I don't see how there's liability on anyone for that action. I would say anything else where you're simply urging that another entity take some action, I don't see where there's any liability for anyone. If you're going to what I would think, which is the next step, which is, for example, asking the sheriff's office to not actively enforce. Again, as I understand from Mr. Green the other night, he, I think, told you that their position continues to be education as opposed to enforcement. Again, I don't see where there's any liability for that action. There are things you could do. For example, I read today that the cities of Manhattan Beach and Redondo Beach have declared that the tables and chairs that were put out in front of restaurants to allow for dining outdoors, they've declared those to be public spaces for this 3-week period. And so in that case, the takeout food from the restaurant, people can order it, get takeout, then they go and they sit at tables that the city has said they're the city's tables. I would say that the potential liability there is relatively small. I would urge you all to do some things like put out extra trash cans make sure that you've taken care of public health to the extent you can. But I don't see a liability issue for those kinds of actions. I think it is if you went and actually did something physically to stop someone else from enforcement, that the city might have some liability. And I haven't heard yet the public insurrection or, the throwing the tea off all the ships we have here. So I don't see where the city is going to have liability for anything else.
Can I add something to that as just an
Yeah.
observation? First of all, if anybody thinks this is going to be 3 weeks, you're smoking something, because it's not going to be 3 weeks. I don't think the governor cares about a letter that we send from the county or the city of Solvang. He's got other things he's worried about. And I know this is 3,000 miles away and it doesn't relate to California, but when you talk about liability, if the governor of New York cannot get in trouble for loading up convalescent homes with COVID patients, then I don't think we can get in a lot of trouble. But then again, I'm not an attorney, that we can get in trouble for allowing restaurants to be public spaces and things like that. Yet, they say that the president killed 270,000 people, so I can't quite figure out what people are talking about. We would take so much heat for what we're talking about right now, because I'm already getting people sending me screenshots on Facebook about how reckless I am with masks and social distancing, and I don't know what that means, but it's going to be split down the middle. But I believe the city needs to do something to keep these businesses open. We've been through enough. The people here have suffered, and if anything we could do to assist our businesses, I would vote wholeheartedly and take the heat where it comes from.
Okay, well, my question, the reason I asked about the liability is because I would like to do this in the appropriate way.
Correct, and I agree.
The appropriate way is to first send off the letter to, the county and whatnot, starting there. My concern is if the city just open-endedly right now decides, oh, hey, we're gonna open everything. Just throw any mandates to the wind without going through preliminary steps first and see what happens.
What if I could add, take a blueprint from what San Mateo County is doing right now. They're probably the largest entity as a county that's trying to do what we're doing on a smaller scale, so we could look into that.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, and I would also say there are several cities which are looking at actions. Again, my understanding is Manhattan Beach, Redondo Beach, the city of Santa Monica, at least have all, without having their own health department, looked at things that they could do to assist, in particular, restaurants to allow the public to be able to dine without the restaurants taking action. They don't have the additional servers, for example, but the takeout dining can still occur in the public space.
I think part of the problem you still have here is like what we dealt with back in, what was it, March or February, but whereas by the time you shut everything down and things are, they sit for a while, food spoils, people can't get employees back, all the normal challenges of small business start hitting. So.
You either do it now and you open it up, or you don't do it at all, because by the time you get through with letters and talking to the county and all that, this is government, it's going to take forever. So we either decide now that we're going to say, hey, we're opening up and we're not going to follow their edicts and we're going to, help our city out, or we say we're going to go with the letters and the waiting and all that stuff. So that's kind of the decision we're at.
That's pretty on par with what I was trying to explain. Jim, you,
Do we have the authority to do that, though, against the governor's order? Chip?
You mentioned, Chip, about the other cities.
So I would note there is at least one superior court in the state of California that said that the governor doesn't have the authority that he has taken. There are other courts that are looking at that. You don't happen to have your own health department. And the way that the state regulations work, they actually flow through the county health department. I believe that you can do things, though, for example, if the city had picnic tables and you follow all the social distancing for people to be able to sit at your city picnic tables, it's actually, at least as I understand, being urged by the governor's order that people get outside and do activities outside, including doing things in parks and at beaches now. That has changed over the last several months. So that's why I'm suggesting that there are things you could do similar to what I've heard is happening in Redondo Beach and Manhattan Beach. I'm thinking in particular the tables and chairs along Copenhagen where you've closed Copenhagen. And just maintaining those, it would be some additional cost, I'm sure, for the city to have the extra trash pickup and to make sure that the tables and chairs are sprayed off. I know that you did have somebody back in May when you first started this who was actually cleaning, wiping off the tables and chairs. I would say that, those are things that you probably ought to do to make sure that you're not creating a new health problem in trying to help your restaurants and businesses stay open.
Or as far as just going into, some cities have taken a non-enforcement tack on that, where basically they accept what the county has said, but it's not a priority for their law enforcement or their city employees to be out there policing that. Can you go anywhere with that?
So the city, at least my experience with the city doesn't have anyone who is actively enforcing.
We have residents doing that.
The county in the late spring, early summer was going around to restaurants and telling them that they must take the chairs away, or I'm not sure what would have happened, but that the chairs either needed to be taken away from the tables or the tables needed to be turned upside down or something else happened. I don't know if the county health department is going to go to those measures for what's supposedly just a 3-week shutdown. I would think that the city could certainly ask the county health department not to go to those extra extreme measures. And again, I think that the city could take certain actions to help the businesses, like maintaining public tables and chairs, if that was something you were interested in.
So I'd just like to add to that, we do actually have a code enforcement person, and I would need some direction from this council on how to handle this and what to enforce or not. We are only really an educational arm. We don't possess the same authority as the county to issue citations. But I have been in touch with public health, and they are telling us to remove even our chairs that are the city chairs and tables. And the sheriff's department I have not heard from, that obviously they have their own arm and authority of what they would be deciding to do.
Jim, do you have any thoughts on where you would like to go?
Well, I think the first thing that I'd like to do is if we can, is to support the county's request to try and get the tri-counties placed in a situation that will allow us to go back to where we were legally. That would be my choice. If there's something that we can do, and I don't know, in the city, and make a decision in the city that would allow our people to do what they were doing before the shutdown, then I would be certainly open to discussing and making a decision on that.
Okay. Why don't we start by maybe making a motion just authorizing the letter to go to the county in support of the direction that I think I'm hearing this council here tonight.
Okay.
We'll get that one out of
We
the
have a
way.
first
So.
by Mayor Toussaint and second by Councilmember Waite.
And I'll just add that you authorize the mayor to send out that letter, because I'll have to write that and get that over to them.
I would urge you probably do it by email and do it tonight, because they need to receive
Right.
it before 9 a.m. tomorrow.
Glass of wine, I'll get it done.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll write that.
All right.
You can join me.
Mayor Pro Tem Clark,
Yes.
Councilmember Thompson,
Thomas, yes.
Thomas, sorry. Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Waite,
Yes.
Mayor Toussaint.
Yes,
Passes 5-0.
perfect. Now we'll move on to the next item. I think there's some consideration at the table here for the city to pursue ways of allowing our businesses to maybe stay in business, following the same safety guidelines that we've already been following, and we've had low case count, as well as maybe authorizing some additional assets towards sanitizing things. I think before that service was being done by IDK. So we can consider those kinds of things if there's a consensus or majority with the council that that's something that we would like to talk further about.
I'd be all for that.
Okay. I think I'm getting nods for that. So who would like to start on that? Chip, you kind of see where this council's going. You're the legal on it. Maybe you have some suggestions for how that could be pursued without recreating the wheel.
Mr. Mayor, I think that you could authorize staff to look at actions taken by other California cities to assist their businesses in remaining open, in particular, the restaurant businesses and other service businesses like that. And you could give the city manager the discretion to implement those items within her spending authority to accomplish that within the next 3 weeks.
What does that do for, is that like we stay closed for the next 3 weeks and then we kind of,
No, my suggestion to you, if it's your intent, is that occur immediately and that the city would take all actions to try and to the extent allowed within the existing laws, retain the status quo.
okay. So whether it's renaming these outdoor scene areas as public spaces
Or autonomous zones.
autonomous zones or freedom zones or, you know,
Yeah.
Correct.
anti-nuisance
And
zones or
you may also, you may want to have
nuisance protest zones.
You may want to have one or two council members authorized to, and I would say it's in the next week, to work with other local elected officials. I think that there are going to be other things after tomorrow's board action. I've heard that for example, Assemblymember Cunningham is trying to get action to create new opportunities for this area to be separated from Southern California. There may be other things along those lines that one or two council members could be appointed as an ad hoc committee this evening to work on that basis.
Okay. And then we can get moving right away with updating solvingresources.com or whatever the businesses need to understand.
I would urge, and because you have a speaker, the director of your Chamber of Commerce, that you also
Right.
work with the Chamber of Commerce to identify those things that could be helpful for the businesses, and also to use her connections and skills in that fashion.
Yeah. Perfect. I think we just redo what we did before, which was we started updating information on solvingresources.com and take it day by day and work together and get it done.
Right. Well, there would be additional costs, so though at some point there would need to be a budget adjustment rather than
Right.
just absorbing it in the budget.
And within your spending authority, or do you want us to authorize some
I would just probably authorize an additional
up to 50,000?
$10,000 for the
Okay.
next few weeks until we can come back with more precise recommendations.
Okay. So with that, let's craft a motion here. Do you have a suggestion, Chip?
Mr. Mayor, I would suggest that first, if you like the idea of creating an ad hoc committee, that you ask for volunteers and create an ad hoc committee to work with Zena on this, and I will provide what support you direct me to, but to be able to work with the city staff, the Chamber of Commerce, and other state and local officials to maintain opportunities for the community to remain open to the extent that it is safe, and to work toward, again, a Central Coast region rather than a Imperial County to somewhere way north region. And then I would suggest a follow-on motion, which again is to provide a budget adjustment, and I don't know whether 10,000 is enough or not, but provide a budget adjustment for the city manager to implement those actions similar to other similarly situated cities to maintain the status quo for businesses in the community.
So we need to let our businesses know that as of tonight, they can go about their business like they had just done this weekend.
I believe that it's as of tonight, the city is going to do all it can to assist them in that fashion.
Right, but they need to know that they can go ahead and run their business. They don't have to work, they can have, outdoor dining and the whole bit. So that, are we making that decision tonight? If we are, great.
Well, could I ask also, when you say, and I saw that one of the criteria was 20% of your capacity, how does anybody know what anybody's business capacity is? I can't tell you how many people come through my doors every day. I don't know. I can look up cash sales and receipts and whatnot, but how do you police that business to business, that you serve 6 more customers in that hour than you had, it just doesn't make sense. How do you, like any of this stuff, how do you police it? I don't know.
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Clark, I think you just identified one of the greatest frustrations of people in the community is
Well,
that,
the arbitrariness has been
well,
nuts.
and the rules are difficult to understand and the rules are difficult to implement and then they change.
And then they don't matter for some people. That's what drives me crazy.
But again, I think that all you can do at this point is authorize the resources and direct staff to take whatever actions we can within the state and county orders. I haven't yet heard, but maybe this is the intent, to leave the county or the state. And I don't have an exact recommendation for you on how you can today leave the county or the state.
That would be fantastic.
So,
Well, I just have,
okay.
I have one more comment, and that's to address the public who made comments to us in reference to if we don't take action on this tonight, and if we don't do this, that this council will leave a legacy behind of very negative actions. I didn't take kindly to that, to a number of the public speakers. We have done everything we possibly can right now to keep our businesses open. We care about our businesses. We care about the safety of our businesses and our residents and our tourists. This is not something that we are doing because we have just been threatened by the general public to do it. We have been thinking about this for months. And when this first happened back in March, we even did agree to send off letters to the county to try to exclude us from this. So I just want to make that very clear.
And we took a tremendous amount of heat from that. I was trying to kill people because we were trying to send.
And you will today.
Believe me, I know. I'm sure Facebook's going
Either
nuts right now.
either way we go.
I know.
So,
But my concern, as I always say, is for the most residents and the most businesses in this town, people that live here and work here and need to pay their bills and feed their families. Obviously, we're not trying to be reckless. We're not trying to hurt anybody. We're trying to keep social distancing. We're trying to keep your masks on, but we're just trying to find a way to support this town. If we think that we've had problems in the past with TOT, et cetera, and with the layoffs that we've had, and we're trying to bring back employees, let's go for another round of this and see what happens. It's going to be dismal.
Well, this all started when they started the counties in the south that brought it down to, 13%, I think was the figure they came at, and we're at, 28? And I think in the Tri-County it was 20.3 or something. So it's all based on what came out yesterday. I don't see there's a lot of change from before that. I think if we can work with the county and if ourselves, because our numbers haven't changed, so eating out tomorrow under the same criteria that we were eating out last week shouldn't be a whole lot different. And I would support whatever we could do to do that, unless we found out that our caseloads at our hospital are starting to rise to such a degree that we would have to then take further steps to
If I
prevent.
can add to that, we know we're going to see a bit of a spike.
because of Thanksgiving, and it's going to be at a 2-week lag time. So these are apples and oranges in a way, because so much of the news spread that would be coming around would be from social gatherings in homes. I mean, like I said, we've been doing the restaurant deal responsibly since May. We can't dictate to people what they do in their homes, and that's where most of this stuff is spreading. So we're trying to just keep things the way they were for the businesses, et cetera.
Okay.
Mayor, for just implementation purposes, clarification, I'd just like to go back to Councilmember Johnson's comment as to today's action and what that actually means. And I'm also looking at the city attorney, that within the laws and guidelines of the state and the county of Santa Barbara, we would continue to work regionally with the ad hoc committee. But there's a message, I agree, that should be sent to the businesses today as to what actions the city will be taking going forward or not.
Right. And that's why I was thinking we can put that message together, get it on solvingresources.com, and then use our other methods of getting that out to everyone.
I.e., the city code enforcement, for example, will not be going out and enforcing this issue.
Right.
There is not much that we can do with what the county decides to do with public health and the sheriff's department.
Right. So I think what I'm hearing here.
And I think you need your budget adjustment to make sure that Xena
Right.
has the funds available.
So I think what I'm hearing here is a motion. We can modify this, but a draft would be that we move that staff immediately pursue maintaining our current economy, as we have had low numbers and our businesses and community have done a great job keeping our numbers low. To evaluate what other cities are doing to quickly and efficiently save our local businesses and economy. 2, create an ad hoc committee to work with Xena, other state and local officials and organizations to maintain our current economy. I'll suggest myself, the mayor, and Councilmember Thomas to be on that. And to authorize Xena to bring back a budget adjustment for any additional expenses in relation to these actions and maintaining public safety.
Can I suggest a modification? Just
Yes.
approve a budget adjustment of $10,000 for now in the short term. If there is bigger programmatic changes going forward, then I'll come back with additional requests.
To bring back an immediate budget adjustment of 10,000.
Okay.
Authorize Xena to bring back an immediate budget adjustment for 10,000 for extra expenses in relation to these actions and maintaining public safety. Does that sound good? The full motion, I just modified the last one that
Yes.
you asked for. Do we need anything in there for code enforcement?
Yes, that would be great. If
Okay,
the
well-
city will not be actively enforcing the county and state orders.
Enforcing county and state orders. Okay, so we got those 4 bullet points there. Do I need to read all of them, or are we good to move on that?
I am good to move on that.
Okay, do we have a second for all that?
Okay, we have a first, Mayor Son, second, Councilmember Waite.
Okay.
Roll. Mayor Pro Tem Clark,
Yes.
Councilmember Thomas,
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Waite,
Yes.
Mayor Toussaint.
Yes. With that, move on to our normal agenda. Number 2, adoption of ordinance concerning addition or enlargement of outdoor seating for restaurants, bars, and wine tasting in the TRC. Staff report.
City Attorney will present the staff report.
Mayor, members of the council, as you may recall, last spring, we brought to you an urgency ordinance to allow for expansion of outdoor seating for bars, restaurants, and wine tasting, which is allowed to occur outdoors, but your existing ordinances actually have a provision which allows the the planning director to waive the requirement for a development plan approval for certain small changes. In one place, they're identified in one way, and in another place in your ordinance, they're identified in another way. So we both clarified a number of things about the ordinance, so those two sections would work together. And then you also approved authority for the planning director to allow for additional outdoor seating areas beyond the 300 square feet that had been sort of the rule in the city, to instead be as large as the planning director approved with whatever appropriate conditions they impose, and including removal of up to 2 parking spaces without any further action, and also noted that the city could, through your parking in lieu fee program, allow for removal of more than 2 parking spaces. Again, that, as an urgency ordinance, took effect immediately, and so you've had a number of businesses who have taken advantage of that change. You also had the introduction and first reading of that as a permanent change to your zoning ordinance. My recommendation at that time had been that we then take that to your planning commission for your planning commission's review and recommendation back to the council. We took it to the planning commission in July. They unanimously approved the change to the ordinance as is. And then you've had several months of COVID emergency and other things going on. So we finally have had a chance to bring this back to you. Again, the ordinance has had its first reading and public hearing. You can adopt it tonight. You need to have another opportunity for the public to speak and then adopt the ordinance. It is essentially exactly the same as the urgency ordinance that you adopted, and so would replace that urgency ordinance.
Okay, are there any questions of the staff report?
No.
Okay, with that, we'll go to public comment. I have one speaker slip so far on this item. Tracy Beard, if you'd like to speak.
I have a little concerns on this issue. First of all, the staff report, the date is wrong. I believe this is saying that it wanted to come December 14th. If you read the staff report that I pulled off at 6 o'clock tonight, and it is for December 14th, so I think we've rushed this slightly. On the fees for parking in Section 3, as we go through and we look through it, how much space does someone get? Is it going to be 2 spaces, or is it going to be 22 spaces on Copenhagen that they can go once this is done? There's really, it doesn't define exactly how many spaces it is from the businesses. Is it 10 spaces? Very confusing. Is this setting a precedent forever in Solvang? Businesses paid $12,000 for the fee. Are we going to refund everyone since January of 2020 that have paid you so far? The impact, is this forever? Is this really fair? Where is the new sequel document? I don't see the sequel document, a document that's been done. Where's the study? I believe sequel is necessary. Sequel is necessary to pass this. And your business community had asked for the parking years ago, for parking spaces, for permanent parking. So is this temporary, emergency ordinance, or temporary ordinance? It should only be a temporary on there. And what happens after COVID-19 is controlled with our business parking? I do have serious concerns on that, so thank you. And I'll leave the whites up.
Do we have any more public comment on this item?
Would anybody online like to comment on this item? Please raise your hand. See none.
Okay. Chip, I'll allow you to address any of those concerns.
Sure. The ordinance as written only allows for waiver of the requirement for 2 parking spaces. Any more than 2 would need to come back to the council, which is what your existing in lieu fee ordinance allows for. This is mainly clarifying, except for, again, it allows for those outdoor dining and wine tasting areas to be approved by staff. And I should have mentioned, this is only in the TRC. So it is limited to just the TRC area. The parking requirements otherwise are unchanged. And again, you've had, I can think of 3 or 4 businesses, mainly along Mission Drive, who have done these conversions. You had, I would say, probably 3 or 4 businesses along Mission Drive who had done this previously. And again, in going through with your planning consultant, city files, sometimes we could find how it had happened and that it actually had been approved. In other places, we couldn't find how it had happened or if it had been approved. So this is to try and provide clarity moving forward.
Okay.
I would, one last thing, those businesses who received this approval under the urgency ordinance, that's now fully vested. So those will stay and remain.
Quick question would be, so this is only TRC. For example, on Al Matata, we have either on the New Frontier side or on the Valley Fresh side. How does that work? Those are, anything that goes out there is temporary, or?
In those instances, those were under a separate action that you took in March, and those are temporary. Once COVID goes away, the uses both in the city street that you've allowed under encroachment permits and the conversion of parking areas outside of the TRC will need to be returned to parking.
Okay. Would anyone like to talk on this item?
I tried to raise my hand earlier, but I guess it wasn't shown.
Okay, well, we can take the public comment right now. So Sheila, you can speak.
I haven't seen anything about fire arrangements in case of an emergency, and I'm just wondering if there's anything in the ordinance to allow fire equipment to go in on Copenhagen if it came to that, for whether it's a person emergency or a fire emergency. And I don't know that that item has ever been addressed, and I'm wondering if that is part of it, and I just can't find it.
So I
Thank
believe,
you.
I believe that item already was addressed during the temporary shutdown, but I'll allow staff to explain that.
Mr. Mayor, I would just note again, this ordinance has absolutely nothing to do with the Copenhagen closure or any other public street use, any encroachment permit use. This is simply for areas of private ownership, and allows for expansion of the outdoor area. One of the confusions the city has over the years taken the position that people could build buildings 300 square feet at a time every 2 years. And this again clarifies that no, the intent is not that you can build a new building 300 square feet at a time. You actually do need a development permit for that. This makes clear what the process is related to that 300 square feet, and that it is only for additions of existing structures. And again, it allows for additional outdoor patio area use on private property. Has to be entirely on private property. As to fire trucks going on Copenhagen, yes, fire trucks can go on Copenhagen. The bollards pull out of the ground.
We had one, we had an ambulance on Copenhagen about a week and a half or 2 weeks ago, attending to a resident right there in front of the leather store. So they can get in and out.
Yeah. And again, that
Sorry.
has absolutely nothing to do with the ordinance that's
Right.
in front of you.
Okay. I just want to make sure the question was addressed, but yes, fire vehicles can get down
And just to
Copenhagen.
clarify, when Public Works issues the encroachment permits, they always ensure that that fire lane requirement is met before
As
that's
part of the
issued,
process,
right?
yeah. Perfect. Don't see much other liveliness here. I'll move staff recommendation.
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded.
Mayor Pro Tem Clark,
Yes.
Councilmember Thomas,
I wasn't involved when this was first discussed, so I'll abstain.
Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Waite,
Yes.
Mayor Chison.
Yes.
Passes 4,
Exactly.
Okay.
1 abstain.
With that, we are adjourned. And we have a planning commission meeting that will start here in a
Yes,
few
right
minutes.
now.
That's why Scott's here.
I was like, he's just here.